What's going on, you guys? It is your boy, Matt Talks Films. I am back with another video, and I am back with another review. And this time, I am talking about PTA's. If you don't know who PTA is, Paul Thomas Anderson's newest film to add to his filmography. I am talking about One Battle After Another. Now, before I get further, I want to say this. I love this film. It's the best film of the year. It's one of the greatest films I've ever seen in theaters. It is the cherry on top of a great year of 2025 in film, and it is truly extraordinary. It is extravagant. It is riveting. It is chaotic, coherently. It is funny. It is entertaining. It is anxiety inducing. It is everything I would have wanted from a new PTA installment, and I got it. Before we get further, you are now entering spoiler territory. You're going to enter spoiler territory. I can't help myself talking about this film in depth without giving spoilers. So just be aware of that. I will be talking about the performances, the story, and what I liked about this film and what I ultimately loved, because I didn't hate anything. I didn't not like anything. I didn't dislike anything. Everything about this film is arguably perfect. I know there's not perfect films in cinematic history to some people, but I disagree. I think there are perfect films in cinematic history, and this might be one of them. So I give this film a 5 out of 5. I give this film 100 out of 100. The other 5 out of 5 films I've given this year are not 100 out of 100, especially after watching this film. So before we get further, we are entering spoiler territory. So 5 out of 5. This film should sweep the Oscars in every which way, and that is my non-spoiler review of the film. So now I'm getting to my full review and my ultimate thoughts about this film. Like, comment, and subscribe if you love this content, if you love my vibe. Now let's get into One Battle After Another. I generally don't know where to start. There is so much to talk about. There is so much to fawn over. There is so much to talk about. There is so much to just ultimately bathe myself in. But let's talk about the story first. The story. It's a hard story to talk about without getting into spoilers. That's why I had to do the spoiler alert before we get into the true meat of this film. So, this film follows Leonardo DiCaprio as Bob Ferguson. It follows Miss Beverly Hills, aka Tiana Taylor. It follows Lockjaw, aka Sean Penn, and it follows Sensei, aka Benicio del Toro. Now, the two big stars of this film are ultimately Leonardo DiCaprio, Tiana Taylor, and also we'll throw in a third, Sean Penn. Those three are the biggest takeaways from this film in multiple ways, but the story, they are the crux of it, alongside Chase Infinity, who is the daughter of Leonardo DiCaprio and Tiana Taylor, or you shall think that. Now, Miss Beverly Hill and Bob Ferguson are a part of the French 75. They are this revolutionary group who are fighting for change. Not in the way that normal people do it, not in the way that anyone thinks is the right way to do it. They engage in political violence because they think that's the only way they can cause change for good. We get this opening sequence, which is beautifully shot and beautifully done, which is them planning this revolution and the start of it with overtaking this illegal immigration detention center and taking these illegal immigrants out of it and bringing them to safety. That is when we are first introduced to Lockjaw. Lockjaw is this wickedly evil guy who is fawning and lusting over his essential captor in, aka Miss Beverly Hills. Miss Beverly Hills is this chaotic and free feeling and freedom preaching revolutionary, and she is hard about what she wants, and she is eager to get anything she wants to elicit change. That's what she wants to do. She wants to elicit change without failing, and we see if she does or not later in the film, but she is terrific, Tiana Taylor. We get this interaction when French 75 are overcoming this encampment, and Tiana Taylor is holding Lockjaw at gunpoint, and she ultimately puts him in handcuffs of some sorts and locks him away. However, that's the first depiction of lust we get from Lockjaw and how much he ultimately fawns over Miss Beverly Hills. And first of all, you can't blame him because we'll get into it, but Tiana Taylor might be the sexiest person ever captured on film in this film. But that's the first interaction we've seen between the two. And ultimately, that is the start of this uneasiness and uncertainty we get between the two about how they ultimately feel about each other. Because, yes, they are very, very different on the political spectrum. Lockjaw is capturing and ultimately detaining these illegal immigrants, and Teyana Taylor's character is freeing them alongside Bob Ferguson and the rest of French 75. But after this event, where they secede and they get these illegal immigrants out of this detention center, the rest of the revolution continues in various events. And that's not the last we see of Lockjaw. He is now the full antagonist of this film. And over time, they meet again. And in order for Teyana Taylor and the French 75 to continue their bombings and their political acts of violence, Lockjaw, who got his hat and his gun stolen, wants his hat and his gun back. And he also might want something else. We know she's been in a relationship with Bob Ferguson, aka Leonardo DiCaprio. There's numerous romantic scenes and sexually enticing scenes between the two before we get to the sexually enticing and ambiguous scene between Lockjaw and Miss Beverly Hills. However, immediately after the sexual interaction that Lockjaw and Miss Beverly Hills have, we get the next shot of Teyana Taylor pregnant and shooting a machine gun. So right there, Paul Thomas Anderson tells you she is not pregnant with Leonardo DiCaprio's baby. Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't know, assumingly, and Sean Penn, aka Lockjaw, is the father. So that is the catalyst of this film, and it is a brilliant catalyst. But ultimately, after giving birth to her baby, Teyana Taylor is dealing with, one, not getting enough attention from her lover, aka Bob Ferguson, and also she's dealing with the guilt that this is not Bob Ferguson, aka Ghetto Pat's baby. This is the enemy's baby. This is the opposite side's baby. This is Lockjaw's baby. This isn't Ghetto Pat, aka Bob Ferguson's baby. So she's dealing with the guilt of that, and she's dealing with the guilt of seeming like a piece of meat after giving birth. Because ultimately she is this beautiful and sexy woman, and she loves the attention. She loves the power that she holds over men. And Bob Ferguson is such a good dad, and he's such a loving father, that his main attention is now on the daughter that they have to raise, and that she has given birth to. So there's a line that's beautifully said by Teyana Taylor, is like, should I feel wrong? I know I should feel wrong for being jealous of my daughter, something along those lines. And that is a really, really real thing that real mothers in real life go through. And I think the emotions that she conveys during those sequences is tremendous. And before that, we just see this chaotically sexy woman who's in power and loves it. And then we get this amazingly tender and emotional moment where you see her sitting on a couch watching Bob Ferguson cradle the baby and be a great father, but ultimately she is jealous and she is guilty and she just wants to be seen and fawned over again. So ultimately, not too long after, we get the scene between Bob Ferguson and Teyana Taylor's character, where she wants to go back out and fight the fight. Bob Ferguson is pleading with her, hey, do you know you have a daughter? Do you know we have to change? And she's like, hey, I never change. I put myself above all, essentially, which is another catalyst for the film. And there ensues the bank robbery, which is a bank robbery meant to fund their weapons and fund their next revolutionary stop. However, this one ends bad. Miss Beverly Hills commits murder of an innocent man, and that is the big turning point of this French 75. Before this, they weren't murdering anybody. Before this, they were just bombing places and proving points to make a change. Here, due to Teyana Taylor's guilt, mixed feelings, and frustration and jealousy of the situation that she is now in with Bob Ferguson and her daughter, she kills a man. So there ensues a car chase, a run out of the bank, and just an onslaught of the end of French 75. It leads to a car chase that ultimately gets Miss Beverly Hills arrested and captive. And there, she turns into a rat. She puts herself above all because ultimately she puts her freedom above everyone else's well-being and safety. And she even puts her freedom above the revolution and the change she's very much fighting for. And in order not to do prison time, Lockjaw, he's the guy that she knows in the system. And she abuses that, and she gets sent into witness protection program, leading to all of her comrades and colleagues getting shot, murdered, sent to prison, all except for a few. and one of the few is Bob Ferguson and Regina Hall's character. They are the ones to escape, along with someone else I forget their name of, but he's also very important. I thought it along like Rabbits, Bob Rabbit, one of those things. But 16 years later, Tiana Taylor, aka Bob Ferguson's wife, Miss Beverly Hill, no one knows where she is. She went into witness protection program, but ultimately she said to Lockjaw, "This pussy doesn't pop for you," and literally that's what she said. And she disappeared to Mexico. That's the last we see of her. 16 years later, we get a view of where Lockjaw is in life, where Bob Ferguson is in life, and the rest of the French 75 are in life. And Bob Ferguson is in a very different spot in his life. He is not the same guy he used to be, because ultimately he has a daughter he has to provide for, he has to care for, and that is the biggest part of his life, not fighting the good fight anymore. As much as he still believes in those said fights, despite having differing views than he once did. Yeah, and 16 years later, why do Bob Ferguson and his daughter mean so much to Lockjaw still? It's because Lockjaw's daughter is interracial. She is black. And what Lockjaw wants to do is get and be a part of the Christmas Adventurers. There's now this open spot in this KKK slash white supremacist slash Illuminati group that will provide you with things you weren't be able to have before. The specifics and the certainties of this group that you will be a part of if you get accepted isn't clear, but Lockjaw wants to be a part of it. And one of the requirements is pureness and purification, and not engaging in interracial relationships, sexual, and so on and so forth. You have to be 100% white, and you have to not engage in interrelational sex acts or relationships. So, when he is questioned and interviewed for this free spot in the Christmas Adventurers so he can obtain this great wealth and this great status amongst the elites, they ask him, are or have you ever been in an interracial relationship? He answers no. And they said, are you sure? Do you submit yourself? Tony Goldwyn and company are part of the Christmas Adventurers. Tony Goldwyn is great, by the way, but he answers no, and he submits himself to further inspection, which his whole life is under scope now, and sooner or later they will find out that he was in an interracial relationship, and in order to erase that interracial relationship, he has to find Bob Ferguson, and he has to kill Bob Ferguson and kill his daughter. So that is why Lockjaw spawns back up into the lives of the French 75 and Bob Ferguson, and that is what ensues, and that's all I will say about the story. I'm sure I'll talk about teeny parts of this story as my review and my feelings about this film continue, but that is the story, and that is the ultimate narrative, and what happens and what you need to know as you watch the story unfold. And it is truly one of the most unique and refreshing and creative stories I've seen in some time. My favorite film of the past 5 years and of the 2020s is Oppenheimer. I think Oppenheimer is one of the greatest films I've ever seen in my lifetime, and I think it's one of the great films of the 21st century. And before this film, I thought it was the best film of the 2020s. And this is no slight to Christopher Nolan, because I think it's Christopher Nolan's best film. And this is no slight to Oppenheimer, because I still think Oppenheimer is a masterpiece, and I still think it's integrally important, both to the world of critical thinking and to the world of art. But One Battle After Another is the best film of the 2020s and of the decade so far. One Battle After Another is one of the best films of the 21st century. One Battle After Another is the best film of Paul Thomas Anderson's career, which is crazy, by the way. Paul Thomas Anderson, one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, and one of the clear best filmmakers ever. And he has already accumulated this unreal resume of films. And for this, at the age of 55, to be his best film is truly sensational. I mean, before this, I loved Boogie Nights, There Will Be Blood, The Master, Punch Drunk Love. I still think all those are 5 stars. I don't think those films are better than this one. I really don't. I think the Odyssey, the coherent chaos, the humor, the entertainment, the anxiety-inducing sequences are an accumulation of the great career of Paul Thomas Anderson so far, and he displays that through this film, and he reaches heights that he's never reached before, and to me that is insane. And man, Paul Thomas Anderson, I liked Licorice Pizza. I did. I wasn't the biggest fan of it as a lot of other people were. I think it's great. I think it's good. I think it's a good watch. I like the actors in it. I like the filmmaking, of course, but that was nothing close to his upper echelon of films. This is not only on the par of the other films in the upper echelon of films he's released in the past, it is above it to me. And to me, that is a wonderful, wonderful realization for me, and it has to be an even more wonderful realization for Paul Thomas Anderson. For him to be producing his best work at this age in his career, and to seemingly top his other masterpieces, which are staples in the world of cinema, especially for the 21st century, is absurd. I mean, this guy made Boogie Nights at 27. Any other career, that's fine. You made the best film of your career. You don't need anything else after that. This man has continued to put out great and terrific masterpieces, and this is the best masterpiece of it all. One Battle After Another is an odyssey that is never ending. It is a 2 hour and 43-minute film. That is the fastest 2 hour and 43-minute film I've ever seen in my life. It is a journey. It is a ride that you are happy to be a part of. It is equipped with every great thing you would want from a great film. And if I had to compare this film to previous Paul Thomas Anderson installments, the two films I think come close to this are Boogie Nights and Punch Drunk Love, in terms of its narrative and the feelings it conveys from you. In terms of the style, this did remind me of The Master a lot. But when it comes to Boogie Nights and Punch Drunk Love, the chaotic and coherent chaos that we get in both of those films feel elevated and amplified in One Battle After Another, and also the anxiety-inducing sequences, whether it's the coke-wriggled Dirk Diggler in Boogie Nights, or whether it's the anxiety-inducing exchanges between Philip Seymour Hoffman's character and Adam Sandler's character in Punch Drunk Love. All those feelings and sequences that I just talked about are amplified and executed at a higher level in One Battle After Another. And this film is also shot on VistaVision, which is insane. And anyone who got to see this film in IMAX 70mm, I bow to you. I think you should be lucky to be able to experience that, because I want to, but sadly, the only 70mm I live next to is Lincoln Square, and that is constantly sold out. But Paul Thomas Anderson, man, he is a gift that never stops giving, and 55 is relatively young in the world of art and filmmaking, and the great filmmakers make their greatest films in the late stages of their career, and I truly, truly think we are somehow going to get more greatness from Paul Thomas Anderson, and we should all be happy to live in the era of Paul Thomas Anderson at his best. And I think we're getting Paul Thomas Anderson at his best from this point on. And that is crazy to say, because he has already been great enough. So, bow down to Paul Thomas Anderson. Thank you very much. And I also love, as I'm getting more and more into Robert Altman's filmography and him becoming one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, and ultimately him becoming one of the greatest filmmakers I've ever seen in my life, I'm really curious how Robert Altman would have felt about this film. This film and so many others of Paul Thomas Anderson feel so Altman coded. And if Altman were still alive, I'm pretty sure he would have loved this film. And I am very curious how he would have felt about this film. And I just know that Paul Thomas Anderson is the best at displaying and portraying his greatest inspirations in the world of film in his films, in his pieces of art. So, Paul Thomas Anderson, you're about to get your much deserved and much awaited Oscar. You are gonna win an Oscar for Best Picture and Best Director and maybe even Best Screenplay. So shout out to you. I love you, Paul Thomas Anderson. Thank you. I mean thank you for giving me this film and fulfilling and putting the cherry on top of the year 2025, and ultimately stamping yourself as maybe the best filmmaker we have right now. Anyway, let's get into performances, because the performances are amazing here. First, off the bat, we got to talk about Teyana Taylor. She is the scene stealer in this film for as long as she's in it. This first hour of this film is entirely dedicated to her. It is seemingly, this film, a catalyst to display her beauty and her acting chops. Teyana Taylor has been slowly showing she is one of the best actors in Hollywood in terms of actresses, and she is unreal in this film. First of all, I just have to say this: Tiana Taylor in this film might be the sexiest anyone has ever looked on screen. The way Paul Thomas Anderson captures Tiana Taylor's beauty and ultimate sexual appeal is similar to the great Billy Wilder's capturing of Marilyn Monroe's beauty and sexiness and her sex appeal. So Tiana Taylor is sexy and she is fist biting. She is everything that is lustful for she is. And Lockjaw is a horrible person, and the only time you relate to his feelings in this film is when he is lusting after Tiana Taylor. Because, oh my, she is terrific. There's a scene in this film where Lockjaw is spying on Tiana Taylor during this act of revolution she's committing, or this robbery she's committing, and she's with the Fred 75, and he starts jerking it while he's looking through the binoculars and watching Tiana Taylor. And then all of a sudden, Leonardo DiCaprio's character slaps and grabs Tiana Taylor's ass, and he just drops his hands. He's like, "What the fuck?" That's when he realizes that this is not his girl, as delusionally he thought so, and ultimately he ultimately ended up engaging in some acts with her. So this is, I mean, Tiana Taylor, not only is she great performance-wise, but she is one of the most captivating human beings I've seen in my lifetime. I mean, whew, it's hard for me not to talk about her greatness cinematically. Like, ultimately, her beauty is cinematically great. It's cinematically notable. It is cinematically a pillar in sexiness and beauty. And my God, if you're a man, even if you're a woman, how were you not fawning over Tiana Taylor in this film? That's impossible to me. Unless you're asexual, unless you just can't find human beings attractive, how do you not find Tiana Taylor sexy in this film? Like, yeah, I talked about the scene with Lockjaw and his binoculars. Also, that felt like just Paul Thomas Anderson realizing the greatness he has and the talent he has with Tiana Taylor's beauty, because that was quite a bit of a long scene, or it felt like. I could have done maybe a 2-hour version of this film, and the 2 hours being added to this 2 hour 43 minutes is just Tiana Taylor. Just shots of Tiana Taylor just looking like herself, because that's how terrific and beautiful she is. So, one, I want to see Tiana Taylor in more things. I want to see her beauty on display in more things. She needs to be a full-on actor. I don't follow her music career. I know she's a talented dancer, she's a talented singer, whatever, but she is an actress. She is maybe the actress. So she needs to be in more films, and I think this showcase of her in this film will provide her with that. And I can't wait to see more of her in films, and I can't wait to fawn over her more. I can't wait to bite my fist in lust over her more. She is terrific, and honestly, I haven't seen a better supporting actress performance this year. I think she is terrific in this film, and she dominates the first hour of this film. Leonardo DiCaprio takes a backseat to Tiana Taylor in this film, and you rarely notice because you are so wrapped around and captivated by her performance. You are captivated in her actions with Sean Penn's character Lockjaw, and you are captivated in her ultimate chaos and her ultimate morals and her motivations for what she's doing and how she wants to commit change. So she is not only a beautiful woman, she is not only a flawed character, she is a egregiously intriguing and fascinating character who you just can't help but to fully be locked in on. So Tiana Taylor is a revelation in this film, and honestly, she's my favorite for Best Supporting Actress. I really can't, in a year of great films, I can't name a better supporting actress performance. I know you're going to say, you know, Weapons or Sinners or other films, but none of those performances in any of those films match up with Tiana Taylor's performance. Tiana Taylor's sex appeal is incredible, and then her performance is incredible. Match those two together, you get iconic. So, Tiana Taylor, shout out to you. You were a scene stealer, and you went toe-to-toe cinematically with Leonardo DiCaprio and Sean Penn and a lot of other great actors in this film, and you dominated. For someone who is not born an actor or born into the world of Hollywood, you dominated this film. A Paul Thomas Anderson film, mind you. So hats off to you, and my God, you are splendid. Moving on. I was going to say if it wasn't for another actor, this might be the biggest takeaway of the film, but that speaks to how great the other actor is, because I think this is maybe the best performance of his career. I think Leonardo DiCaprio in this film is the best performance of his career. Now, let's talk about my favorite films from Leonardo DiCaprio and his best performances, in my opinion. I'm going to go quick. Django, he is terrific in that film. The scariest he's ever been, the most evil he's ever been. Killers of the Flower Moon, absolutely terrific in Killers of the Flower Moon. The Departed, one of the most in-depth performances he's ever given. Wolf of Wall Street, he's absolutely terrific in Wolf of Wall Street. Rick Dalton in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Those are my 5 favorite Leonardo DiCaprio performances, and he has a plethora of other great performances. One Battle After Another is his best performance. It's his best performance. And it might be the best his character has ever been in terms of human nature. I mean, yes, he is a far left, politically violent guy in the past, but his character arc and who he is as a character is someone who is a much better human being and understands the ultimate needs and what he needs to do in his life now. And honestly, I'm surprised he never killed anyone in this film, unless I'm blanking. He doesn't kill anyone in this movie. You could ask me before the film, does he kill someone in this movie? I probably would have said yeah. He does not. Leonardo DiCaprio is terrific. It's the best performance of his career. It's the funniest he's ever been as a actor. It is one of the most bizarre and refreshing and unique characters he's ever played. It is one of the most intriguing and fascinating characters he's ever played. And I'm surprised how funny and physically demanding this character was for Leo, and he just gives it all out. He just elevates this film and truly, truly proves how great he is, even where he is at in his career. There's a 15-year difference in parts of this film from when we first see them and then when we later see them. In the first part of this film, Leonardo DiCaprio looks incredibly young. I know he's not crazy old, but first of all, Paul Thomas Anderson and company did a great job of making him look younger and then making him look older as 16 years go by. But man, I love Leonardo DiCaprio. I love seeing him play this stone dad who has a past of radicalism and political violence, who has changed for the better and cares about his daughter and wants the best for her. Like, I love Leo, man. I loved seeing that. And I loved seeing him in a Paul Thomas Anderson film, the first of his career. And you know what he does? He might have given the best or the second best, because let's be honest, Daniel Plainview, played by Daniel Day-Lewis, is probably still the best PTA performance, but it's the second best PTA performance on a list of great performances. So shout out to my boy Leonardo DiCaprio. He should get a second Oscar here. And it's a crime that he hasn't had more than 2 Oscars or more than 1 at this point in his career. If he somehow doesn't get the award this year, there's something wrong. There's something wrong, and the Academy should officially be written off. They've gotten it wrong a whole bunch of times, and we still worship and love these awards, but Leonardo DiCaprio deserves this fucking award. Let's be frank, let's be real, and let's be honest. What performance from a main actor this year was better than Leo in One Battle After Another? Seriously. There's no recency bias here. There is none. This is just truthful speaking. What performance was better than Leonardo DiCaprio this year? The only one I can think of off the top of my head, Joaquin Phoenix in Eddington. Joaquin Phoenix is incredible. He's funny. He is physically demanding, similar to Leo in this film. Sorry, I love Joaquin. I would have given him the award before this film. That award goes to Leonardo DiCaprio. And if you've watched this film, you should think the exact same. Because how couldn't you? Leonardo DiCaprio is funny. His character is beautifully conveyed in multiple different scenarios. There's a line in this film from Leo that is like, I love black girls. Why do you think I'm here? I love black pussy. And it's just like, man, I've never seen Leonardo DiCaprio be so funny. Shout out to my black queens, by the way. But anyway, for real though, man, this film was special. I mean, dude, I am elated. This is my second time seeing this film, guys, in 24 hours. I would have seen it 3 times. I'll be completely real. I would have seen it 3 times if it wasn't for Thursday Night Football. And honestly, if it wasn't for a stacked slate of college football and an NFL slate that consists of the Buffalo Bills, I would have seen this film 4 to 5 times before the weekend conceded and ended. Because that's how great this film is. And I don't think... it's crazy. Yes, I care about other people's opinions. I want to hear them. I'm interested in discourse and dialogue and disagreements. Who wants to live in a world that fully agrees with you? Every person that I care about and listen to and watch and talk to in the world of film and letterbox has already seen this film. You guys need to go support this film. I mean, it's crazy if you say you love film, and I don't give a fuck what you say. People will be like, "Oh, I don't have a job. I can't go see the film. I don't have any time." Hey, if you love film, and you love fucking doing things outside of work, and you need to get away for the day for a couple hours, go see one battle after another. Yes, there are more important things in the world than movies and seeing pieces of art. But man, if you really want to escape into a great world of filmmaking and art, you go watch this film. Go watch it. But anyway, God, man, I'm gonna not stop thinking about this film. I am not gonna stop thinking about it. Leonardo DiCaprio deserves his Oscar. He needs it. He just needs it. Give it to him. I don't see how you give it to anyone else. I don't see how you give any of these awards to anyone else at the moment in time, unless another picture blows me out of the water, which I didn't think was possible after Weapons. I didn't think it was possible after Eddington. I didn't think it was possible after Sinners. I didn't think it was possible after 28 Days Later. I didn't think it was possible any of those times. But seriously, this time I mean it. If another film overtakes this film as the best film of the year, I will be shocked. I might even be. I don't know what I would do if a film is better than this. That just doesn't seem possible. Because this film is perfect in every aspect, every way, and shape and form. This film is perfect. It is perfect. It is a revelation. It is revolutionary. But anyway, sorry for going on a tangent. Sean Penn. Sean Penn is absolutely terrific in this film. Sean Penn is something special, man. Dude, this is a guy who's won a lot of Oscars already. Terrific in Mystic River. Terrific as Harvey Milk. He has a lot of terrific performances. This is the best performance of his career, at least the best supporting acting performance of his career. Him as Lockjaw, not only is he evil, he is morally complex. He is a morally confused guy. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to address or avoid his emotions he's feeling. He doesn't know how to do the right thing. And ultimately, he is an extremely lustful guy, but who can blame him with a woman like Miss Beverly Hills, a.k.a. Tiana Taylor, the queen of all queens. Man, there's a scene in this movie where at the start Friend 75 is invading this encampment, and that's when we get first introduced to Lockjaw, Beverly Hills, and Bob Ferguson. And Tiana Taylor has Lockjaw at gunpoint because they're evading the camp and they're taking away the legal immigrants to a different part of America so they can survive and be free and be safe. And the Tiana Taylor's character is telling Lockjaw to get up, and she's like, "No, not on your feet. Get up. Get your dick up." And this man, as we find out, is a man who believes in racial purification, or hypocritically so. Maybe he believes in racial purification and the Christmas adventurers because he wants to escape his past that he dived in. And that scene is so funny because that's the only time we relate to Sean Penn in this movie. Because, my God, the lust for Tiana Taylor is real. I think for every person and human being in that audience that experienced this film this weekend. But that is one of the funniest scenes of the movie. There's another funny line in this film, and there's so many funny lines in this film, a lot of them from Sean Penn, but there's a really funny line delivery from Sean Penn's character when he's like, "I got raped in reverse." And he's having this conversation with these Christmas adventurers, and he wants to get involved and into this group, but ultimately he's been a guilty man in their eyes because he engaged in sexual engagement with Miss Beverly Hills. And and it's just so funny because they find out and they confront him about it. He says, "I got raped in reverse." And Tony Goldwyn and the other guy who's brilliant, I wish I knew his name, but they're like, "How do you get raped in reverse? Can you explain that to us?" And it's so funny, and it's played so straight, and it's played perfect. Sean Penn is unreal in this film, and I really, really, really can't get enough of how good he is in this film. Almost everyone I talked to said he's a scene stealer, and he's the ultimate takeaway from this film. And that is crazy because arguably Leonardo DiCaprio gives his best performance, but yeah, it's true. Somehow Sean Penn is the biggest takeaway from this film, and he is a monster in this film, both in performance and both in his actions. He is a racist, he is a hypocrite, he is a man who is quick to kill, he is a man who only wants to appease to his sexual tendencies and what he wants to do. Like, It is crazy. I still never full. I've seen this film twice, so maybe it becomes clear to me on a third watch or a fourth watch, or maybe it's just meant to be ambiguous. I am still not sure how to feel about the relationship between Miss Beverly Hills and Lockjaw, because the first scene we get, what I just talked about, is when she tells him to get up and not on your feet, but get up for me. At first, I think she's trying to humiliate Lockjaw, but then there's a quick shot of her face and she's licking her lips. So I think she might be either turned on by the power of her actions and of her sex appeal, or she is turned on of having such a powerful man under her spell, under her finger. So, and then we also see later in the film when they're about to do another revolutionary act and an act of political violence, Lockjaw, who's been spying on her, meets her in the bathroom where she's setting up this bomb to detonate in the near future. And he says to her, "Hey, you want to keep doing this? I want my hat and my gun back, and you better meet me at this motel." And what we see in that motel is Tiana Taylor, who seemingly seems into this. We don't know if she's into this because she wants to save her freedom, because ultimately she puts herself above all, or if she wants to save the French 75 and they could keep doing their acts of change and political violence, or she's doing this because she genuinely has some sort of affection and feelings towards Lockjaw. And to me, it's not confusing because I understand the narrative and the story. However, I do find the actions of her character to be interesting and maybe a little bit conflicting. And maybe that's the purpose of her character, to be conflicting. And I think she ultimately just loves how people fawn over her and how powerful she is in that aspect. Whether it's in the power of change or whether it's through the power of sexual appeal. She is clearly obsessed with how she controls Leonardo DiCaprio at first and how she controls Lockjaw. Because ultimately, she is jealous of the kid because uh, Bob Ferguson, aka Leonardo DiCaprio, is uh, spending all this time with his daughter and taking care of her like a good man. But she's upset that she no longer holds power over him, and the daughter holds power over him because they just brought new life into the world, or he thinks. So maybe I don't know, man. It's a really interesting aspect of the film, and I think it's one of the most potent aspects of the film. And I am curious what other people think about that. Is Miss Beverly Hills attracted to Lockjaw for real, or that scene we see in the hotel, just her trying to save her freedom and save the French 75? I don't know, because she seems super into it, and ultimately they have sex enough for Lockjaw to come into her, and I don't think it was rape. I think it was consensual. So I don't know. It's a very interesting aspect of the story. The only way I could think it could be rape was Lockjaw mentions him getting raped in reverse by her, and that's how they had sex. But no, because we get a shot of Tiana Taylor's character right after the motel experience. So it's an interesting film, and we clearly see her dealing with the guilt of the fact that she slept with Sean Penn's character. But man, it is interesting, and I'm curious. I wish there's someone else who saw this film twice talking about it with me, but it's just me babbling to myself and asking myself questions. But moving on with the rest of the performances, Benicio del Toro is great. I think it's his best performance of the year for him, maybe of his career. I think he brings this amazing sense of comedic relief. I think he brings this tenderness feeling and this feel good part of the story that was much needed. Tony Goldwyn is terrific as one of the Christmas adventurers. Oh man, there's so many great supporting performances. Chase Infinity is terrific here. I've never seen her in anything else before. She is really good, and I can't wait to see her in more films. She could have easily been the worst part of this movie. She could have been miscast. She could have had no chemistry with Leo. She could have just not given a good performance, and the part of this film could have ruined the movie. But she is really good in this film, and she adds a great aspect to this film. You get to see her battle multiple dilemmas. She was, born into the revolution without knowing, and now she's thrusted into the thick of it. She has to deal with the dilemma of Bob Ferguson not being her true father, despite him raising her for her whole life. She has to deal with the fact that Lockjaw is her true father, who is the true enemy, and the true fascist, and the true racist. He even calls her a mutt baby at one point, which is one of the most horrific scenes in this film. And then also, she has to deal with the fact that her mom, who she thought was a hero, is not a hero. She was actually a rat who actually got multiple people killed and abandoned her. So she is just terrific in here. And like I said, this easily could have been the spot of the film where the film takes a down notch, and it could have easily been a negative of the film. But instead, she's accompanying the rest of the bright spots of this film, which is essentially all the film, because all the film is great. But man, Chase Infinity is great here, and I can't wait to see her in more films. And for her to be a bright spot in a Paul Thomas Anderson film, which is stacked, is truly something to say about her talents and her future. And I can't wait to see more of her. And she's terrific, and hopefully she's in more Paul Thomas Anderson films moving forward. I loved her in this film, and I loved her character and all the dilemmas and moral aspects of her life that she had to deal with, and all the retrospective she had to do. Terrific. The last scene with her and Leo is terrific, when the car chase ends and Leo walks out of the car and he's like, "It's me, baby, it's your father." And beautiful, beautiful stuff. Terrific. It's a cherry on top to an already perfect film, and Chase Infinity brings the heat. When I saw Wood Harris in this movie, I knew it was going to be a great movie. He wasn't in this movie for long. He is in it for not long at all. He has very few lines of dialogue, but I knew this was going to be good because I didn't know he was in it, and I was like, hey man, this man's an elevator. He's an amplifier. And what he brings to the film is welcome and needed for me, because I love seeing Wood Harris perform. Regina Hall is good in this. I love seeing my girl Regina Hall. She's good in this. There is performance after performance of the movie that is just great, and everyone's batting at 1,000, and you can't ask more from actors in this film. You can't ask for better actors. You can't ask for better casting. You can't ask who would have done better in any of these roles, because they're all casted perfectly, because casting and Paul Thomas Anderson know what they are doing when it comes to the films that they make. And I'm telling you, it's the performances are one to behold, and I think we get three of the best performances of the year in this film. And honestly, the three performances we see in this film are going on to be extremely noteworthy, and honestly, they might be the three best performances of the decade. Now, I think Cillian Murphy might be better as a best actor compared to Leonardo DiCaprio, just because of how much Cillian Murphy transformed. Um, and I do think Robert Downey Jr. as Strauss and Oppenheimer might be compatible with Sean Penn in this, but either way, it's top two or top three for everyone here. I don't think anyone has been better supporting wise as an actress when it comes to Tiana Taylor this decade. Tiana Taylor, great performance, and the sexiest anyone has looked in some time. We might have to go back to Marilyn Monroe or Jackie Brown, like, or we might have to go back to Pam Grier and her black exploitation films. Man, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, boy. Man, listen. This film is something to behold. But let's get into it a little bit more. Like I said, I've seen this film twice now, and a lot of things I loved the first time. Pretty much everything except for one thing, which was the ending. And I was worried the ending didn't fully land for me, and it did this time. It fully landed, and that's what makes it a generational and an all-timer for me. Like, I think this is generally a perfect movie, and that ending on second watch solidified it for me. At first, for some reason, I don't know if anyone else felt this way. Let me know if you felt this way after your first watch, but parts of me was like, for some odd reason, I don't know why I was thinking like this day. It must have just been a weird day. I was like, is this being set up for a sequel? Like, what's going on here with this end with the daughter and Leo and reading the letter? I didn't think it was necessarily necessary to have that ending. But on second watch, I thought my first viewing self was just out of his mind for even thinking that way. I think the ending is perfectly sewed together with the conclusion of Lockjaw's character, with the conclusion of Bob Ferguson and his daughter's character, with the revolution and continuing, and her being born into the revolution. And now she's the new era revolution, and that is great to watch and unfold. And then we also get a nice little bow wrapped to Miss Beverly Hill's character and her regrets in life, and how she failed in trying to change the world, and she writes a letter to her daughter. Hopefully you don't. So I'm curious if anyone else didn't like the ending initially, but when you thought about it, and maybe when you watch it again, your mind completely changed, because I know mine did. Another Oscar category that this film is going to win. Best score, best soundtrack. Dude, the song selections in this film. Dirty Work, a Jackson 5 song, which is terrific, they use. I forget the name of it at the moment. And then the score, the original score of this film is unreal. I don't see how Johnny Greenwood doesn't win for Best Composer, or whatever the category is, because we've seen him do great scores for PTA's previous films, and this is the best score of any PTA film. how much the score of this film adds to the film and how it adds to the anxiety inducing sequences in this film is splendid. It's spellbinding. It is truly an immersive experience due to the score and how much it just completely engulfs you and catches you onto it's just terrific. Johnny Greenwood's score is one of the major takeaways from a film that is ultimately stacked with takeaways. There's like a 15-page list of things you can take away from this film, and somehow Johnny Greenwood's score it sits among the top of that list. This is the best original story I've seen in some time, and listen, Paul Thomas Anderson never fails to give us a refreshing story. I think this is his most fresh and creative story that he's ever come up with. And I know this film is derived from a short story or a novel of some sorts that I've never read, but I heard it's good, and I heard that Paul Thomas Anderson does take some liberties from the novel and he adds his own stuff to it, which is inspiring to hear. And I think this story we get is something. It's truly a ride to strap yourself into and enjoy. I was upset I had to take a quick pee. Luckily, it was my second watch, so I knew what was coming. But taking a piss in this film hurts because you don't want to miss a second, even on your second watch. So, man, what a film! It's just this film is exhilarating. It is exciting. It is somehow non-exhausting. It is just some of the most beautiful chaos you've ever seen in your life. And I can't get enough of it. I really can't. The cinematography of this film, the shot selections, there are shots of the road in this film. That might be the greatest shots of roads ever. There are shots of riots in this film that are just absolutely hallucinating and hallucinogenic in a great way. There are car chases in this film. There's about 4, maybe 3 in this film, and 2 of them might be the best car chases I've ever seen in my life. There's a car chase that takes place at the beginning that is on the edge of your seat. You're moving as the car moves, and then the last car chase we get is a car chase. I've never seen it the way it was filmed in this film. Like, what the hell? Dude, it's hard to even explain, but the way the road was filmed in this film is maybe the greatest any road has ever been filmed in their life. The amount of sauce that Paul Thomas Anderson brings to the car chases in this film and how he chooses to shoot them is terrific. We're going down this road that is hilly, and we're going with the hills as the hills are going, and it's just beautiful. It's just revolutionary filmmaking, and it's special, and it's one of those pieces of art where you're saying to yourself, I was here for this. I was here for when Paul Thomas Anderson dropped one battle after another. I was here for this. I was here and able to experience this film. I was here for it. You were here for it, and you got to witness it. That's what this film does, and that's what it did to me. I was here for this film. And matter of fact, woohoo! Viva la revolution! Viva! This screenplay and this script is just so neatly written and so cohesively written, and it's clear what Paul Thomas Anderson was going for. It's clear the ideals and the ideas that he was going for were executed to perfection. It is clear how captivating this film is on all fronts, whether it's with the idealisms, whether it's through the complications of political correctness and how change should be brought upon and how it shouldn't be, and the conflicts of bringing political violence into your life and how over time you will change and become a different person. And it's just terrific. There's so many scenes in this film where it's just belly laughter type of funny. Man, the funniest sequences in this film is when Leonardo DiCaprio is put in the situation that he has been in a while in 16 years, where he has to go back to code speak and try to get coordinates for the French 75 to find his daughter, and he doesn't remember the fucking password because, as he says, I've abused drugs and alcohol for about 30 years, brother. I'm not going to remember one line of the fucking password. If I remember 6 out of the 7, give me the coordinates, bro. And it's so fun. It's Leonardo DiCaprio's at his funniest here. He really is. And I think Paul Thomas Anderson's at his funniest here. Punch Drunk Love is hilarious. Boogie Nights is hilarious. But this might be the most funny Paul Thomas Anderson has been. Like I said, the cinematography is terrific. The shot selection, the song selection, the score composed by Johnny Greenwood. The performances are terrific. Everything is terrific from top to bottom. There's generally nothing bad I can say about this film. Usually I talk about what I loved in the film and then what I didn't like and what I hated. There was nothing I didn't like. There was nothing that I hated. Everything that happened in this film I loved or I'm just obsessed with. I came away obsessed with Tiana Taylor. I came away obsessed with the performance of Leonardo DiCaprio and Sean Penn, and I came away obsessed with the ultimate ins and out and intricacies of the filmmaking here. So man, it's just unbelievable to watch. It was unbelievable to watch unfold, and it is truly an extravagant ride that I wish never ended. And this film is a film I'm going to see a lot of times, and you should too if you love films. Next Friday at Regal, they're doing There Will Be Blood and this, because this will be out at the same time. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to watch one of PTA's best films with maybe his best film. So what the fuck? We are living in the golden age here, and I know a lot of people say, film sucks nowadays. Hey, what about this year, bud? How does this year do for you? Paul Thomas Anderson. What the fuck? Weapons, Sinners, Eddington, all these other great films. How does this year do for you, kid? Because this is one of the great years of the 21st century for film. And if you don't agree with that, maybe this film will convince you. Because we still got some interesting films coming out this year. Marty Supreme comes out this year still, with Timothée Chalamet, directed by Safdie. So wow, I'm just floored, and my heart hurts if this film doesn't come away with a lot of Oscars. And I don't know how I will ever look at the Oscars the same. There's other instances throughout this time frame of the Academy where I should look at the Academy different, but if Paul Thomas Anderson and this film don't sweep the Oscars like if this film doesn't sweep the Oscars like Oppenheimer did, something went wrong, or something greater came out, and I just am not expecting it. I think I talked about everything I could in this film. I really do. I'm also curious. I don't know if anyone. I know this might be spoiler territory by now, but the Christmas Adventurers. They are called the Christmas Adventurers. They are clearly a KKK/white supremacist group/Illuminati that is fighting for racial purification. Why are they hailing Saint Nick, aka Santa Claus? I have to look this up. I don't know, maybe this is a dumb thing to include in my video. Maybe I should know it by now. But I thought that was interesting. I thought that was a nice touch. I obviously equated Christmas to white and snow. So that's why they're called Christmas Adventurers. But interesting, man. Just an interesting point and plot for Lockjaw. And just making him this man who wants to get into the upper echelon of society through the Christmas Adventurers, but due to his past, he can't. And sadly, you can't run away from your past, especially when your past is as evident as this one, since there's a kid as evidence. There's so many weird and interesting things. Like there's a church full of nuns that acts as a sanctuary at one point for Chase Infinity. There's so many weird parts of this film. This film is the perfect type of weird. It isn't too weird where it's not understandable. It's the perfect type of weird and chaotic where it's all coherent and it's not a mess. How this film isn't a mess, first of all, pertains to how great everyone involved in this film is, but particularly Paul Thomas Anderson. Paul Thomas Anderson takes a crazy, chaotic film with so much going on and somehow makes it feel like there's not too much going on, which is a special feeling and special capability to have in a film like this. There's so much going on, there's so much chaos, but somehow it doesn't feel like too much. It doesn't feel too overwhelming for the viewer. And to me, that is one of the greatest displays of filmmaking. I'm telling you, man, I'm going to tell you the lists I've added this film to. And I know I've been talking your guys' ears off if you're even watching to this point, but I have this film being the best film of 2025. I have this film being the best film of Paul Thomas Anderson's filmography. I have this film being the best film of the 2020 so far. And I added this film to the perfect movies list, which might be too soon. But how is this movie not perfect? How is this movie not perfect? Seriously, let me know in the comments. How is this movie not perfect? Tell me a plot point. Tell me a narrative point. Tell me something here that can bring down this film. Because I can't think of it. What can you tell me to bring down this film? Because you truly can't. You can't bring down this film. It is impossible to. It is truly impossible to. And I'm just curious if you could debate me. Tell me why One Battle After Another isn't PTA's best. Tell me why it isn't a perfect film. Tell me why it isn't a masterpiece. Tell me why I'm overreacting. Tell me why I'm glazing. Let me know in the comments why this isn't a perfect film. Let me know. You won't be able to tell me. Man, I talk about everything here. It's ironic. I've been talking for an hour, or maybe a little bit less. And there's still so much to talk about. There's still so much to talk about. There's still so much to gloat over. There's still so much to glaze over, if I had to say it like layman. But this is terrific, man, and I'm gonna stop it right here. But don't be surprised if you see me talk about this film again in depth, because man, this is special. This is a special film. I urge you to go see this film. I goddamn beg you to go see this film. You knew this film was going to be big when Leonardo DiCaprio started doing all these media appearances. This man did new heights with Jason Kelsey and Travis Kelsey, for Christ's sakes. He went on a Tonight Show, which he hasn't done since 2006. This man is above everything he's been doing to promote this film, and he wants this movie to succeed at the box office. There's no movie this year that deserves to succeed more than this one, and I truly mean that. This movie should get the numbers that Lilo and Stitch did. Like, that's how great this film. Originality is still alive through the hands and the lens of Paul Thomas Anderson, through his storytelling, through his filmmaking. This man is one of the pillars of cinema, and he continues to be one of the most refreshing, unique, and original filmmakers we have in the world of cinema today. He is truly an icon. He is truly a legend. And if he didn't already, this is a film that cements his greatness. This is a film that cements him alongside the very great to ever do it. This is a film that cements his legacy as a storyteller. This is a film that cements his legacy as a man who just sees it, who understands the vision before he ultimately executes it. This is a film that ultimately cements the greatness of Leonardo DiCaprio as well, and hopefully gets him a second Oscar, because damn well he deserves more than one. So, wow. I am floored, guys. I really am. And I feel like I want to talk about him more, but who am I talking to, really? Am I talking to myself? I already wrote 2 reviews about it on Letterboxd. And, dude, this is terrific. It's terrific on all fronts, and I hope you guys loved it as much as I did. I hope you guys see it more than once like I did, because I'll probably see this 6 or 7 times before it leaves theaters, because I am single-handedly saving cinema. And I love cinema, and I'm going to support the people I love in the world of art and film. So, you have my glaring review. You have my glaring thoughts, and you have my honest thoughts. This is true. Listen, guys, if I didn't love this film as much as I do, I wouldn't be talking about it this long. I wouldn't be talking about it this much. I wouldn't be talking about it this much in depth. So, it is your boy Matt Talks Films. The next time you see me will be next week for The Smashing Machine. Hey, I might even come on to talk about There Will Be Blood and this film, that one battle after another, because that's how great this film was. Not only did we get all decade and all 21st century and all, honestly, not only did we get generational performances in this film, not only did we get generational filmmaking here, but we got a generational story, and I can't say that enough. I can't plead with you enough to go see this film. Just go do it. Just go do it, please, for me, and let me know how you feel about the film. It is your boy Matt Talks Films. I will be back soon, probably next week, to talk Smashing Machine, the new Mark Kerr / Dwayne The Rock Johnson film. Benny Safdie behind the camera, and I might even come on and talk about There Will Be Blood and One Battle After Another again, because what a doubleheader I'm in for Friday, man. That doubleheader is sensational. So it's your boy Matt Talks Films. Hopefully you stayed around and listened to me talk and blab on, but I love this. This is why I go to the movies. This is why I see new releases every week. This is why I'm in it for the long haul. This is why film will never stop being my escapism of choice. This is why I do this. This is why I get up in the morning. I know that might be corny to a lot of y'all, but it's the truth. It's your boy Matt Talks Films. I'll see you next time.